Good morning friends. Today we are going to see how to generate some patterns. So the first pattern we consider is printing the star pattern in this fashion. So for doing this, we are going to write a program. In the main, we have declared the variables I, j, rows and space. So we are going to read the number of rows by using scanf %d ampersand rows. Now you can observe that in the first row I have 1 star, and the second row I have 3 stars, and the third row I have 5 stars. So using this information I am going to write these loops. So now this for loop, which is a I loop, it is for number of rows. So your number of rows, it starts from 1 to the number of rows. So for which I have written for I equal to 1, I less than or equal to row I plus plus, and inside that for loop, first what I am doing here is I am going to generate for the first line. If you are in rows is 5, so you can observe that there are 5 spaces. So for which I have used inside for loop space equal to 1, space less than or equal to rows minus I. So why rows minus I here is because in the first row I have 4 spaces, in the second row I have 3 spaces, third row I have 2, and fourth row I have 1 space. Likewise, the spaces will be reduced. So here the loop will be for space equal to 1, space less than or equal to rows minus I, space plus plus. I am going to print these spaces. Now after I print the required number of spaces, I have to print this star pattern. So for printing the star pattern, I am using the j loop. So j varies from 1 to 2i minus 1. So if the first case, if I is equal to 1, then this 2i minus 1 will be 1. So in the first row, I have to print only 1 star. In the second row, when I is equal to 2, so it will be 3. So I have to print 3 stars. So this for loop will be j equals to 1, j less than or equal to 2i minus 1, j plus plus printf %c, the star symbol. So here star is a character, so I have to make use of %c. And why here 5c here is the remaining 4 symbols has to be space. And after printing one row of stars, I have to make the cursor to move to the next line, for which I am writing printf \n. And this is regarding your loops, and your main program terminates by executing the return 0. So now let us run this program and check the output. So suppose I give the number of rows is 6. So you can observe that in the first line 1 star, second line 3 stars. Likewise in the last line you will be having 11 stars. Now we'll see another program to print the pattern. In the first row 1 1, second row 3 2s, third row 5 3s, fourth row 7 4s. So it goes on until the number of rows I am going to print. So what you can observe again, first row 1 1, second row 3 2s. So likewise in the nth row I will be printing 2n minus 1 n values. So in the previous program you have observed that I am going to read the number of rows and I am going to use outer for loop for every row what I am doing. Next also we have seen how to print the required number of space using the for space equal to 1, space less than or equal to rows minus I, space plus plus, printf the 5 spaces I have given here. So this will be printing the required number of spaces. After printing the spaces in previous program, we were printing the star. But now instead of printing the star, in the first row I want to print 1, second row I want to print 2. So this the value I am printing is stored in your variable I. So now in the j loop I am going to print the value of I, which is the row number. So that is because I know that in the first row the value to be printed is 1, second row it has to be 2, third row it is 3. Likewise in the nth row I am going to print the n value. So let us see by running this code. Now, if I enter the number of rows as 5, you can observe that in the first row 1 is printed 1, second row 2 is printed 3 times. Likewise, in the fifth row 5 is printed 9 times. Now let us see how to print the pattern which is given here. So in the first row I want to print 1, second row I want to print 1 to 2, third row 1 to 3, fourth row 1 to 4. And if it is in the nth row, I have to print from 1 to n. So now the required variables I, j, k, rows and spaces. Actually space is not required here. So we can eliminate the space because there is no need of printing the spaces here. So because it is a left aligned pattern. So now I am going to read the number of rows and my for loop I from 1 to rows is for how many rows I am printing the pattern. And inside that I am printing the value of j, which is varies from 1 to I, because you can observe in the first row I am printing 1, second row 1 to 2, which is the row number, in the third row 1 to 3, in the nth row I am printing 1 to n. So now after printing the first line or every line, I have to go to the new line, for which I have used printf \n. So let us see by running with some input. So the number of rows, if I give as 5, you can observe the required pattern is generated. So let us see how to print this pattern 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is right aligned. So now again here I require rows and space, but I don't require columns. So I am reading the number of rows, and as usual for I equal to 1, I less than or equal to rows I plus plus for the number of rows, and inside every row what I am required is I have to print the required number of space as in the first and second program. So space equal to 1, space less than or equals to rows minus I, space plus plus, I am printing the spaces. After this you can observe that in the first row I am printing only 1, and in the second row I am printing 1, 2. Likewise, so j varies from 1, j less than or equal to I, j plus plus, printf %d j. So this is right justified, so I have to print the spaces first, followed by the pattern. After printing every row, I have to go to the new line by printing a new line by using printf \n. So let us run and check whether it prints the pattern in the required fashion. So suppose I give the number of rows as 5, you can observe the required pattern is generated. Okay, let us see how to generate this pattern. So the first row 1, second row 1, 2, 3, third row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fourth row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Likewise, in the nth row I am printing the values from 1 to 2n minus 1. So again, as usual, the required variables are declared, and I am going to read the number of rows and outer loop for the number of rows, and space loop for printing the required number of space. And after printing the spaces, I am going to generate this sequence 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by using j equals to 1, j less than or equal to 2i minus 1, j plus plus, printf %5d j. So this is going to print the required numbers in every row. After every row of data is printed, I have to go to the next line. So for which I have written printf \n. Now let us run and check the output for some values of number of rows. So if I write number of rows is 4, you can observe the pattern is generated properly. Now let us try to generate this pattern. So you can observe the first line you have 1, second line 1, 2, 1, third line 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. So in the previous program you have 1, 2, 3 in the second row, and third row you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what's the difference here is After the mid value, the value goes on decreasing, whereas in the previous case, the values were increasing. So for which until the mid, I want to print the values from 1 to the number of rows. That's what here I have done here. For j equal to 1, j less than or equal to I, j plus plus, printf percentage %d j, which prints up to the middle half. After this, I have to print the values which are in the decreasing order, for which I have used a k loop which varies from 1 and k less than or equal to I minus 1, k plus plus, and printf percentage %d I minus k. So for the first time when I is equal to 1, so this and k is equal to 1, I minus k will be 0. So I minus 1 will be k equal to 1, k less than or equal to I minus 1. This condition becomes failed. So this statement k loop will not be executed. So when I becomes equal to 2, then k equal to 1, k less than or equal to 1 it becomes. So once the loop get executed, at that point of time, the value of I minus k is nothing but 2 minus 1, which is 1. So here 1 will be printed in the second row after the 2. So likewise, this gets generated and the required pattern will be printed. Now let us run and see the output. If the number of rows I give as 6, you can observe it prints the correct pattern. So until the mid, it generates the pattern in the increasing order. After that, it generates the pattern by decrementing the value until it reaches 1. Thank you.